Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I am thrilled that you're here. You're really going to enjoy today's interview with a gentleman named Bryant Dawson. Bryant has a very interesting story. He's in multiple asset classes. He's out of the Kansas City market. And really looking forward to getting into the different asset classes with him. And really, we're going to talk about the election that's coming right up. We're going to talk about economic uncertainty, what's happening there, bridge debt, some other things where we feel real estate's headed. So you don't want to tune this one out. Welcome to the show, brother.
Man, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
I appreciate you coming in for this, and I'm honored. So why don't we start by having you tell a little bit about your story? You know, where you came from. I know you were a bag boy for $5 an hour.
$5 an hour. Yep. So I've got a little bit of an interesting background. I come from a little town in southeast Missouri. I think the average wage still there today is like $35,000 a year.
Wow.
And me and my wife had both of our. My wife now was my girlfriend then. Had both of our kids in high school, so I had to learn work ethic pretty young. Started out as a bag boy at a grocery store, $5.15 an hour, and started in oil and gas just shortly after that. And everybody told me to get into real estate, and I bought my first investment property at 19, and then it was.
How old are you now?
35.
Okay.
Yep.
First one at 19. I bought mine at 18, but just barely beat you.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. But please continue. And then remind me to tell you about my first one because it was a real joke of a shit show. But please continue.
So I worked in oil and gas for quite some time.
Doing what?
I started out as a welder initially, and then 2008 came, and that was not a great time for oil and gas workers. And I figured out that I
didn't know that, so that got impacted by the crash as well, huh?
Yeah, pretty heavily.
Okay.
Anytime oil starts to drop below $50 a barrel, it's rough. And I realized that I couldn't just rely on being a welder, so I learned how to pipe fit. That way, I had two skills.
Well, those are pretty high-paying skills, from what I hear.
They are, I mean, 120 to 150,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I came out of high school essentially making six figures,
Nice.
which was really important to the real estate build.
Sure.
And I was just in the right place at the right time, honestly, in that. But worked my way up through management in that, consistently trading my active income for this thing that I was after was passive income. But it was pretty much just two active income streams because
you're managing yourself.
I'm managing myself.
Right,
I can't
sure.
pay anybody else to do it.
Right.
So that's kind of what led me
That
to
was
where
it, huh?
Huh?
I said that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
I mean, it was.
So what got you to get into real estate? I mean, what was the epiphany or the moment that you realized, okay, man, I got to do this?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. So my grandparents or my grandpa especially told me from a young age, son, they're not making any more real estate.
I like it.
And so that stuck with me, and I really didn't know what the hell that meant, honestly. And whenever I turned 16, he passed away and willed me a piece of property.
Oh, nice.
And so I have this piece of property now, but I have no idea what to do with it. And then my CPA later on, after I make my first $100,000, he's like, hey, you should probably think about doing some investing. And this is, I'm 18.
To mitigate your tax liability.
To mitigate my tax liability. I have no idea what he means at this time. I'm 18 years old, and he says that you should invest in real estate. Well, he was a farming CPA. So he's like, land is not going anywhere.
Right.
Well, I associated that immediately with what my grandpa had told me. So
But you don't get write-offs on the land.
You don't, no.
Right. Okay.
But I didn't know that at the time.
Right. Okay.
Right. So the first piece of investment property that I buy is a piece of land.
Another piece of land.
In a coming up development
area.
And then I start buying rentals shortly after that.
Okay. And this is in the Kansas City general area?
This is in southeast Missouri.
Oh, in Missouri.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I know you've had like 900 units of multifamily and mobile home parks so far. When did you move into mobile home parks, and what prompted that?
Well, I mean, I think a big part that a lot of people miss is that I was really a flipper to start off with.
Okay.
Because I was making good money in oil and gas, and I wasn't, as you start getting into those golden handcuffs, you make more money and you want a bigger truck and you want a bigger house and all these things. And I pretty much stayed away from those, but I did understand that I couldn't massively scale my portfolio with the salary that I was making.
Right.
So I took some of that and traded it for fix and flips. And I did a whole bunch of fix and flips for really too long. And then it wasn't until many years later that I actually got into multifamily and then mobile home parks, which is kind of my main focus.
Do you regret any of those flips? Do you regret not holding on to any of them?
I mean, obviously everybody, I think, regrets selling a piece of real estate.
Okay, well, I'd like them to hear it, okay?
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of fix and flippers that listen to my show, and you're only as good as the last deal.
Yeah.
And if you hold on to them, you rent them out, at some point your passive income's going to exceed, well, passive is a relative term, but your income's going to exceed your W-2, even high-paying W-2.
Which is what happened to me. I kind of got into a cycle where I was buying portfolios of houses, 10, 20, 30 at a time, mostly single family, some duplex, fourplexes in there. And then the ones that I couldn't sell, I would just rent out. And then I realized I had about 108 single families at one time. And it was just so heavily loaded. It's like, dang, if I just replace all 108 with 108 single apartment building, this is going to be way easier to manage.
Yeah. Well, it took me 2,000 to get that memo. Okay. I've had 2,000 houses I rented long-term, and I'm a slow learner, but, back to my first house that I bought, by the way, just cause it's funny. I bought this, it was like built it's a 100-year-old house. Like it was 18 something, flat roof, shotgun kind of house, real old crappy house in Denver. And I think I paid 18,000 for it, if I recall, or 17 something. And the woman had cats that pissed all in the crawl space. And it was the worst smell ever. I remember kills in all the walls and going into that crawl space with leech and trying to kill the smell. Oh God. And thankfully that didn't sour me on real estate in general. But that was my first one when I was 18.
You did that one yourself?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I did pretty much all my houses myself. I did some with my brothers and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I bought, I don't know, 500-600 houses in Denver, and then a couple hundred in Memphis, and like 1,400 here in Florida. So you were fix and flipper. Okay. So you came across mobile home park stuff as well? Or
so
I'm assuming these are some small parks, or did you do some larger ones?
50 unit parks.
It's about the smallest you'd want, probably, because with 50, you can have an on-site manager.
Yeah.
With less than that, you're managing it yourself, and
it's tough.
That is about the lowest demographic there is. You mess with me, you mess with the whole trailer park kind of mindset, right? Yeah. But have those been profitable for you, the mobile home parks?
I mean, mobile home parks are definitely profitable.
Yeah. So what do you watch out for when you buy a mobile home park? I mean, I know the answer, but I want my listeners to hear it. So tell me what you look for, what sorts of things you've encountered.
Well, the biggest shit show that you can possibly get into is that all the homes are park owned.
Right.
That's the biggest shit show you could ever imagine.
And you flip them when you do that?
You have to.
Yeah. So when you buy a park, guys, a lot of times the park will own some of the homes or even all the homes, and that's the worst thing in the world because they're horrible quality, and so the maintenance will kill you. And so what you want to do is you want to sell the homes to the residents. You can finance those payments plus some lot rent, and then they're responsible for the maintenance, right? And so, that. Now, did you encounter another thing with mobile home parks you have to be careful of is the infrastructure. Did you encounter what sort of sewage arrangements or water sewage arrangements did you come up with? So what did you see?
I had a mobile home park that I managed.
Okay.
And it was a small park, and I really managed it strategically because I owned the city block next door. Oh. And I was really trying to buy the park and destroy the park. And
sure. Nobody wants a freaking mobile home park. That's why they don't get built right now.
Right.
But,
yeah. Right. And it's just outside the city limits. My lot line is on the city limits, so the city can't do anything about it. It's in the county. So it's a major eyesore, and there's new housing and development going all around it. So I decided to manage this thing, and then I get a call one day from DNR, and DNR says, "Hey, we got a big problem, and you're about to have a big problem too." I was like, "Okay,
that's on us.
What's the issue?" They're like, "Well, the sewage is just raw sewage running right out on the ground." I'm like, "Okay." So I go out there, I look at it, I meet the DNR guy out there. He's like, "You have 30 days to end this management contract with these people because we've been on their ass for 5 years."
Wow.
And of course,
what was the sewage solution there? What did they have septic? Or
so they didn't have septic. It was actually hooked up to city sewer.
So it just broke. The sewer line broke.
Yeah.
Okay.
The infrastructure inside the park was just super dated, needed to be replaced. We offered a couple solutions. We had some plumbers come out and look at it, but the owner didn't want to spend the money ultimately. And
did he have a choice?
not by my watch,
Right.
but I don't know whatever.
Well, the reason I bring this up is there are mobile home parks that literally have sewage ponds.
Yeah.
They call them lagoons. They have mobile home parks that have sewage plants that if they break down, they can be $50, $100, $200,000.
Yeah.
And if a mobile home park, and this is the thing, guys, if you're thinking of investing in mobile home parks, this is the biggest thing you want to look at. Let's say it's on well and septic. You better have another solution in case the well goes out, because if the well goes out or the well gets contaminated, you're done. You're out of business. So you better figure out what it would take to get into the city water solution if you have to. And if it's on septic, by God, you better look at that as well.
Yeah.
You've got one huge septic system. So the infrastructure is the biggest red flag, cautionary red flag with a mobile home park. And then of course you got to convert park-owned homes to resident homes. Well, And again, don't do less than 45, 50 spaces, because if you do, you're going to be managing it, and you do not want to be managing it. You want to have the ability to have an on-site manager. You agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think 50 is really
50's pushing it, isn't it? Yeah, you should be more than that, honestly.
Yeah, you
probably.
really should be looking at at near 100.
Near 100? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Back when I was going to get into mobile home parks, I went to Frank and Dave's course. You know who those guys are, right? Rolf, I think, and did that a couple of times. And I was really seriously going to get into them. My brother's done a ton of them. One of my best friends, you know Kevin Bupp?
I don't think so.
No, okay. Well, he's got thousands of doors. But anyway, I digress. So what about self-storage? Do you just got some self-storage as part of your deals, I think you told me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a big self-storage guy.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
I like the asset, but
Right.
honestly, where we're at in the Kansas City metro market and markets around there, self-storage is a huge need, especially around Lake of the Ozarks.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to pull their boat from Kansas City or St. Louis or wherever it is. So they store those. But that stuff sells on just ridiculous multiples.
Doesn't?
And I just ended up with some, in some different transactions that I've done, and it's I like it.
Just ended up with some garages on a lot that you bought or something like that?
Well, I bought a 46 unit apartment building, and adjoined to that was 26 units of self storage.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I was like,
That's a gift.
I was like, hey, what are you doing with that? And it had 26 units there, and then 7 units of just parking bays.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what are you guys doing with that? And they said, oh, we're going to include it in the sale if you want it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was like, well, yeah, I'll
better
take it.
believe it. Wow. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, let's shift gears. Let's talk about current events right now. We're heading into an election. I think probably one of the most important elections this country's ever had.
I agree.
Would you? Yeah, you agree? So let's talk about what the different candidates are promoting. Kamala is talking about a $25,000 down payment assistance program. How do you feel about that?
Here's the thing. My daughter just turned 18 years old. My daughter is under contract right now to buy a duplex, which is very exciting.
Wow.
And she's going through FHA, first time home buyers.
Nice. So
mortgage.
she's going to move in to get the 3% debt.
Right. So it's a very affordable. I think she's spending $7,000 or something like that.
Wow.
To buy this. It's $150,000 unit or something
Beautiful.
like that, and it needs a little capex and things. But I don't understand where the money's going to come from. First of all,
Well, that's the whole rub. Who's paying for it?
who's going to pay for it? You and I are.
Yeah, don't get me started. That makes me absolutely nuts. And and then you've got, we've got a housing crisis in this country already. We were 5 million housing units short. We're showing short for 25. That doesn't even account for 20 million illegal immigrants that have come to this country.
Yeah.
I just saw an article that kind of freaked me out. We've got some assets in San Antonio, and a Venezuelan gang has taken over 3 apartments there. And apartment complexes.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and they're doing child prostitution, they're doing prostitution, they're doing drugs, and scared the hell out of me. And so we're doing all sorts of proactive measures to make sure it doesn't happen to one of my 2, possibly 3 assets there. I may be dumping one of them, but yeah, and this is because we've had these open freaking borders, and then the other thing that camp is promoting is this tax on unrealized gains.
Yeah, how does that? How do we? I don't even understand where to begin. Underwriting a multifamily deal is hard enough. Getting your taxes done is hard enough. And to try to get the government to tell us what our unrealized gains are on a property that's
Come on.
Like,
And then they want to eliminate tax benefits for anybody that owns more than 50 houses. I don't know if you saw that. God help me. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, guys. I mean, please go vote, and please think about all these things when you do. So, I don't know how much do you know about the U.S. debt? Do you look at that at all?
I mean, I do some.
Yeah.
It's I know it's running rampant. It's like
it's going up $1 trillion every 100 days right now.
that's insane.
It's and I don't know if you know this, you can use this quote. I had someone else sitting in your seat there that told me about this, that 80% of the U.S. currency has been created in the last 4 years.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
Only, up to 2020, only 20% of the existing currency was in play. Now, another 80% has come about in the last 4 years. And so we wonder why there's inflation. I mean, hello, we're just printing this freaking money. And I think they're BS in the inflation numbers. I really do. But they have to, because we've got to lower the interest rates, or we are in
trouble.
Deeper shit
Yeah.
than we already are. And so so what is your prediction for the real estate market? I'd love to hear your opinion. Now, you're in the Midwest, which is fairly stable, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
The Midwest is fairly stable, but even though, we still get affected just like everybody else does. I think it hinges 100% on the election. I think there's two ways it goes. Honestly, if Trump gets reelected, I think
he's bringing on Elon Musk to deal with, because it's like fiscal, where he's going to monitor government spending.
Yeah,
I mean, who better to do it than freaking him? Hello.
He cut Twitter.
Well, hello,
by
like 80%. And they're more effective and running better than they were before.
Yeah.
So who better to do that than that? But, the only saving grace is if, God forbid, it gets stolen or Kamala wins on a lark here. If they get both houses, then we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, forget it. I think this country is going to go down the tubes, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, there's their policy. They don't have a policy. Their policy is bullshit. Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't know what that prediction could even possibly look like.
Yeah.
No, in that direction.
It's scary. It's scary. Tell me about some seminars. I call them seminars instead of failures. Or, talk about a doozy.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is buying outside of my buy box. Like, I honed in on a buy box. I'm flipping a ton of houses. I've done over 2,000 turns.
Have you really? Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And so I've got a honed in buy box. We've got, this thing down to an art. And whenever you go outside that, that's the problem.
That's when you get spanked, isn't it?
You do.
Yeah,
you get spanked. And I've got one right now today, that I bought in a portfolio. I knew it was not a good deal. I should have just dozed the thing down, but I wanted to save it, and I'm going to lose my ass on this property. Yeah, guarantee it.
I would tell you the same thing about me. Every time I've gotten out of real estate, I've had my ass handed to me. I've built 29 businesses so far in my career. Several were tens of millions of dollars, but most, 3 right now most are spectacular flaming seminars, right?
Yeah.
We fail our way to success. But let me ask you this. I get a lot of listeners on the show that know they want to do something. They're in a W-2 job, or they're in the rat race, or they're, maybe they're comfortable, but they're really not happy. They know they deserve more. Their family deserves more. Speak to them. Give them some coaching.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I can say is get a mentor.
Yeah.
Get out there, talk about what it is that you want to do, start understanding that, and get a mentor as soon as possible. I mean, there's just so much, there's so many mentors out there, right?
Ton.
And whenever you start really honing in, you're going to find one that works.
Yeah.
I coach people, you coach people, and not everybody's strategy or personalities fit, but you're going to find one that does.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do is that's going to shave off 10, 15, 20 years of your seminars.
You're paying for speed. So have you had mentors in your career?
Yeah, I've had many mentors.
Yeah.
I mean, I have mentors now. I think, I think that's the golden key to a lot of success in life is the mentors and coaches. It's invaluable.
So let me ask you this. I'm known for mindset and psychology. I spent 20 years with Tony Robbins. I love talking anything mindset and psychology. Yeah. And I know that, that's something that you like as well. Where do you get your drive from? What's your why? What's your motivation?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously in the beginning of this, we talked about, where I come from and that was a mindset shift that I had to make. Cause the place where I come from, people just they don't talk about money. They don't talk about, what's next. They don't talk about a lot of those things. And, I always knew that I wanted to do something different. And at the end of the day, whenever I really got out and I got into reflection of where I was, in the past, it was all a mindset shift. Everything that I wanted to do was a mindset shift. From a new job that I wanted, to a promotion that I wanted, to an apartment complex that I wanted, to whatever it was that I want. All I had to do was want it bad enough and make that mindset shift and really truly drive to that. It's 100% mindset.
Yeah. Do you have a team? Is it just you? Do you have employees? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I've got a team. I've got an underwriting team that works for I guess we'll back up just a little bit. I own a lot of the ancillary businesses that operate my stuff.
For example?
So I own a construction company.
Are you a GC?
I'm a GC.
Oh, fantastic.
I own a property management company.
Right.
Sorry
to hear that.
Yeah, me too. It's not my favorite, but I only work in it maybe 1 hour a month or something like that. That's so it's pretty good. And then a brokerage, and then
you've got a brokerage too.
Yeah.
So you licensed a broker?
Yep.
Holy cow, dude.
Licensed in the state of Missouri. I'm not a good seller. I buy stuff. My wife does a lot of the
Well, it's good to have
stuff.
access to the MLS and get commissions and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
In the single family space for sure.
Yeah. And then my day-to-day is I run and operate a couple small funds. So.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. And use these funds to acquire assets.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Okay. So what's next for you?
Man, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a great question. I'm working on a project right now that I call Crafting My Life. I'm kind of taking my retirement. I'm 35 years old now, and my wife and I's goal.
And I've got socks that have 2 decades on you, by the way. Right. Anyway, your wife and yours goal is what?
My wife and my goal is to retire at 40, or just we're pretty well there now, But we're looking at, from 40 till the end of our life, that's a long time. So we're kind of trying to plan that time out and reverse engineer that backwards, kind of like I would do a flip, and then come to the resolve now, here's the steps that we need to take to make that happen.
So come up with the numbers. What the hell are you going to do retiring at 40? You're going to be staring at the freaking walls. I know, hello, please. You're not going to retire. Who are you kidding here? I may slow down a little bit, but... So what's your favorite part of the work that you do? What do you enjoy the most? And then what do you enjoy the least?
Honestly, my most enjoyable part is this. I enjoy talking to people, getting out and meeting people. Yeah. It's always been my favorite part about this.
Yeah, me too.
My least favorite part. Yeah. Property management. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as you get into this business and learn this business, what would you tell my listeners who are the best people to align yourself with as you move forward in this, to be a success in this business? Besides, you said mentors, but any thoughts, for somebody that's listening, they're in a town here in the United States, they need to go do something, maybe give them a little bit of an action plan.
Yeah, so you need to get around people that have the right mindset, that have the same goals and visions or generally as you do. And those exist in every town, every city, every state.
Real estate investor club meetings, meetup groups,
REIs, whatever it is, and that is the number one place. And they're not expensive. No. A lot of times they're free.
Very often they're free, or they're $20 or something. It's nothing. Yeah. I spoke at one last month before I left the country. So, you've built some teams. You've got construction, you've got a brokerage. By the way, I got my broker's license right when I turned 18 in Denver.
Oh, congratulations.
Broker. Well, no, commiserate really. But I you could do it back then with education. Now you need some experience. They got smart, but I was a broker right when I turned 18. True story. Awesome. Anyway, and I've let it all go. But you've got these teams. You got the brokerage, you got the construction, you've got the property management. As a leader, what do you look for in your team members, and how do you lead? Let me ask those 2 questions.
So one thing that we've just recently implemented is some DISC analysis type stuff.
Beautiful for personality. DISC, by the way, guys, is a personality profile, And Tony Robbins has a free version of this on if you put in Tony Robbins DISC profile, dominant, influential, steady, and compliant and it's a personality profile that is extremely accurate. Okay. That's a great way to screen people.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Well, keep going. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So you use the DISC profile to determine if somebody's a good fit.
Yeah.
And how to communicate with them.
How to communicate with them. And then one of the next things that I've been doing for a long time, I did this in oil and gas whenever I was a senior PM, and I would give a sheet, and it's really simple, but it's got about 20 qualifying questions on there, and it's really about their future, where it is that they want to go, where they see themselves in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And that's going to allow us to understand that they either align with our vision or they don't align with our vision, or maybe they're not educated enough to align.
Interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. No, I like that a lot. Do you use any business operating systems? There's a book called Traction. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay, it's got the EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. That's what I'm talking about. Because we've implemented that in my businesses. I don't know if you've done anything like that.
I haven't, but I should.
You will love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now. Guys, if you have a business that you're in, that you own, really read that book Traction, and I will tell you it's been a game changer for us, because it's a way to systemize your business so that you're only focused primarily 90 days in advance. You do 90-day chunks, and you come up with goals that you're going to do, and not too many. And there's some great strategy in there. Instead of having an organizational chart, you have an accountability chart, which looks like an org chart, but it's for accountability. It's some really groundbreaking, very, very valuable. It's a very valuable tool that we use in all my businesses now, and it works very, very well. So when you were first starting out, how did you finance your deals? You didn't have a fund when you started. How did you finance them? Use your own money, but after you ran out of your own money, let me ask it that way.
So for the longest time, I just used my own money. I was working oil and gas, so I started off making $100+ $1,000 a year when I was 18, 19.
And you're flipping, so you make a little extra money. Yeah, you make a little extra money, right?
You're buying a couple and flipping a couple, and you're making $20,000, $30,000 a turn. So you're increasing that, and then whenever I left oil and gas, I was making just over $500,000 a year. So
good for you.
I had a really good active income, plus my secondary.
That must have been hard to leave.
It was, but my rental income started surpassing my active income.
Wow.
And that's the point whenever I realized, because I started this I only wanted 10 rental houses. That was my whole goal. I want 10 rental houses because I'm going to keep.
It's funny how your goals change over time, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, just in case I get hurt, I'll have these 10 rental houses that they can still feed my kids. And as that started kind of moving along, and I realized that my passive income was surpassing my active income, and I'm like, I don't have to be here. And I'm working 84 hours a week, 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hour days.
Yeah.
And they're sending me all over the country.
That's no fun, being away from the family.
No, it's 40 states and 9 countries I traveled doing that. So
no.
And it's like, I don't have to be here. And that's really, really liberating whenever you realize that you don't have to.
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
I just had this conversation last night.
Wow.
So the best advice that I ever got was, I had a oil and gas boss of mine tell me, the day that I stop worrying about money is the day I'll stop having to worry about money.
I like that. I like that a lot. Wow.
And
hello.
I was pissed off whenever he said that at first. And, it was like, I didn't really understand what that meant until about 2 or 3 days later. And I started realizing, I'm like, I am like, my job as a project manager was to make sure that things were always on budget.
Oh, sure.
And although that's important, it puts this limitation on you a little bit, because it puts
stress on you as well.
And stress, yeah. And you're stressed to the max, and then it's like, oh, I can't afford to go out and buy a 8 unit or a 10 unit or a 50 unit, or not even thinking about 100 unit.
Right.
You see a $20 million price tag or something like that, it's way out there in left field.
Right. Wow. I love it. You get people that hit you up for, they see your success and they want to talk to you. Is there a book that you gift more than another? So I remember back in the day, I would gift a CD set to anybody that asked me about the business, and I just copied them and gave them a CD set from somebody else that was, talking about flipping or residential.
Yeah.
I mean, but this was pre-Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Right.
But is there a book that you gift?
It depends on the person.
Okay, good answer. Yeah. Okay.
And I will ask a few qualifying questions. Typically, if it's somebody that's just getting started, I'm obviously going to give them Rich Dad Poor Dad
Yeah,
to kind of
course.
start them out.
Of course.
If it's somebody that's already started and already kind of going, I'm really fond of, and it's changing a lot of folks' mindset on some things. Is Buy Your Time Back.
Buy Your Time Back.
Yeah.
I don't even know that book. Wow.
It's
okay.
I would highly recommend it.
Okay, I love it. So, did you have any fear when you first got started?
I have fear every day.
Okay, well, how did you get over that fear when you first got started? Because that's a big question that I've got a lot of people that listen that's what they struggle with.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that I think fear, from a psychology standpoint, we worry a lot about things
That never happened.
that don't ever happen.
Yeah. So what is fear? F everything and run?
Yeah.
Face everything and rise?
I mean,
False evidence appearing real?
I think it's all those things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
You just have to, I was in a dangerous industry, and you walk into an oil refinery every day, not knowing
If it could blow
up or
right.
anything like that.
That's
You're
happened.
trained for those type of things, but I think that helped a lot with my fear on stuff. But at the same time, whenever you start dealing with your own money, it's different. But I think through a couple different things, good education, good mentorships, and really, really, really understanding your numbers going into your first couple deals is really important. Or even partnerships on your first couple deals with somebody that's done several.
Sure. And if you're going to get into partnerships, guys, please go to rodslinks.com and download my partnership question book, questions you should ask before you get in a partnership of each other. Because partnerships like a marriage are very easy to get into and very hard to get out of.
That's exactly
Have
right.
you had any bad partnerships?
I've had tons.
Yeah. So there you go. And so you need to ask all the hard questions up front. So go to rodslinks.com. There's a bunch of free books there. My boot camp site is there. But one of the books is the questions you ask before you get in a partnership. What are some of your favorite books?
Yeah, I'm a huge business book reader. So
Okay,
I just
awesome. Throw some good ones out, please.
I love the E-Myth.
Oh yeah, Michael Gerber. I love E-Myth too.
I mean,
and you implement that. And by the way, guys, well, talk about what it is. I don't need to steal your thunder.
Yeah, I mean it's the reason most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. That's the extended version of the title, and it does a really, really good job of clearing that air.
Well, what it is, I mean, in a nutshell, is that you basically McDonaldize your business.
Yeah.
So you set up every business is nothing but people and systems, and this is the systems piece.
Yep.
And Michael Gerber is the author, and he's got E-Myth for attorneys, E-Myth for realtors, and basically you're just going to go in and document your entire business. And literally to the micro level of here's the screenshot of what you do here to here to here and all of your operating procedures, so that if somebody gets hit by a truck, you could literally pull somebody from McDonald's to step in and do the business.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great book. What else?
So Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Chris Voss. I've had him on the show. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually had him speak to my mastermind as well. He's like FBI negotiator.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a really, really, awesome book. And there's, I think anytime you read a book, right, it doesn't matter what book it is in business. I think there's golden nuggets in all of them.
Sure.
And it's one of the cheapest ways. If you don't have the money to buy the book or whatever, you go down to the library and rent one or whatever.
Right.
And it is the cheapest education that you can possibly get.
Now he's amazing. He's added a ton of value to me and my clients and students. Love it. What else?
The 10X rule is another.
Oh, of course,
another big
Grant. Yeah, Grant was on my live a couple days ago, and he spoke at the Trump rally. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. That surprised me. I was like, whoa.
He goes big or goes home. I went to his growth con in Vegas. And I paid $20,000 to be in the front row, which. Yeah, I love Grant. I think I probably shouldn't have done that, but I got to basically high five all the who's the quarterback? Brady. And he had he had a bunch of big names there at that event. But no, I love Grant. I've had him on the show a couple times, and we have a lot of fun. But yeah, that's a great book. 10X is a great book. He's got some other great books, actually. He done
does.
a really nice job as an author. But
And then
well,
the biggest one right now is Buy Your Time Back. Like that book is
love it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it as soon as we're done here, because that sounds good. Well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you coming on the show
Absolutely,
and coming down here, and I hope you enjoy your time here. Hope you get to enjoy it a little bit. But thanks for coming in, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.